Okay, good afternoon, dear ladies. בסייעתא דשמיא, this week is פרשת חיי שרה, שבת מברכים, ראש חודש כסלו. Let's bless בעזרת השם that we will all have the זכות to greet משיח צדקנו וחכמים ובריאים במהרה בימינו אמן. אליהו נביא אליהו תשפיליהו גלעדי, במהרה משיח דוד אליהו וזכו לטוב. And may we all have the זכות to see the building of בית המקדש השלישי במהרה בימינו אמן. כי עין ועין יראו בשבת נצר, נתת תקום תרחם ציון, כי עת לחננה כי בא מועד. השיבנו אדוני אליך ונשוב חדש ימינו כקדם. And may we all have the זכות to go to ארץ ישראל on the wings of eagle, and may we all have זכות part in ארץ ישראל. בשם השם נעשה ונצליח, אין עוד מלבדו השם, שפתיי תפתח ופי יגיד תהילתך, and everything that we do בשם כל ישראל בעזרת השם. בעזרת השם לרפואה שלמה, for health, לרב אברהם אשול בן תמר, בסייעתא דשמיא ליונה בצר הזוהרה, חנה תהילה בת זיזת, נתנאל ראובן חיים בן דליה, ישראל איזה בן לאה חיה, שלמה בן עיישה, אנג'לה עדינה בת גולצ'רה, חיה עידית יהודית בת רחל, רחל בת פסיה, שרה רחל בת חסידה שרה, אביגיל פרידה בת שושנה, אליהו בן ציפורה, לייזר בן ראיה, שרה בת מלכה, שרה בת מלכה, תמסה יצחק בן תאיתו, דבורה בת צ'רנה, רחל בת נעמי, יוכבת יהודית בת דבורה, סיגל ציגי בת יונה. בעזרת השם, all of the people that were hurt in the terrorist attack בעזרת השם, ורפואה שלמה לאברהם אהרון בן פגה מלכה, ישראל בן לאה חיה, אמרנו, אוקיי, תינוק רפאל בן עמית, עמיחי בן שרה, צביה סבטה אורה בת שרה, בנימין בן מרים, וחיים סימון חנניה ישעיהו בן לאה, and בעזרת השם, everybody that needs from Aleph to Taf, and רחל חיה בת לאה שרה. בעזרת השם, everybody that needs רפואה שלמה from Aleph to Taf, please ladies, even if you feel good, בעזרת השם, always ask Hashem every day that you will stay healthy. So בעזרת השם, everybody that is healthy, that may Hashem continue the health mentally and physically בעזרת השם, and may we all have the זכות to repent, לעשות תשובה מעומקא דליבא, from the bottom of our hearts, and everything is also לזכות all of the tzadikim that have a yortzeit, and among them בסייעתא דשמיא is רבי מרדכי שרעבי that had a yortzeit, עליו השלום זכותו תגן עלינו, והאדמו"ר מזוויל, עליו השלום זכותו תגן עלינו, והרב פיינשטיין, עליו השלום זכותו תגן עלינו, and also on כ"ד, which is tonight, there's also the yortzeit of Chesed LaAvraham, which is the grandfather of Achida. So Rabbi Avraham Azulai בסייעתא דשמיא will send you in the WhatsApp, so you will see it בעזרת השם. So עליהם השלום, זכותם תגן עלינו, ועל כל עם ישראל, and may we all have good news, ask כלל ישראל and the whole world, may Hashem bless all of us, והשלום, with peace. Peace upon us in every home, peace upon us and כלל ישראל, and peace upon us, כלל ישראל, and the whole world בעזרת השם. So dear ladies, I'm just reminding you, it's Shabbat Mevarchim. It's this Shabbat we bless the month of Kislev. There's 2 days of Rosh Chodesh. It will be next week. It will be Thursday and Friday. So please, dear ladies, don't forget to read the whole book of Tehillim. It's a big thing to read it on Shabbat Mevarchim. It's good to read it all the time, but especially on Shabbat Mevarchim. If it's hard for you to read the whole Tehillim, you can spread it and divide it with your friends, and then each one reads it at home, the part that she has, and together you finish the whole book of Tehillim. And when we do the mitzvah together, it's considered like each and every one of us did the mitzvah on his own. If you go to the shul and over there you read the Tehillim, tavo alechem habracha. So בסייעתא דשמיא, let's continue. We are going to start Berachot HaNe'emin, and then Be'ezrat Hashem we'll have Dinei Shabbat. We're going to speak about lighting the candles of Shabbat. And Be'ezrat Hashem, after that, we're going to go about guarding our tongue. So we are on chapter 50 in Kitzur Shulchan Aruch. I'm just reminding you, Kitzur Shulchan Aruch, chapter 50. We finished last time on halacha, on the commandment number 9, halacha tet. I would like to remind you that aseh lecha rav v'tzeh min hasafek. It says in Masechet Avot that you should make yourself a rabbi, and by this you won't have any doubts with the commandments, because the commandments is the word of Hashem. And the children of Israel received 613 commandments by the Torah and 7 commandments by the sages, which is 620, the numerical value of a crown, keter. And all of the nations received 7 commandments of Noach. So this is what Hashem wants us to do, to follow His way, Bezrat Hashem, and this is what we are learning together. So I'm reminding you the last halakha that we spoke about, that if a particle of food become lodged in our throat, which means נכנס לו דבר בגרונו ושותה משכין או אוכל חתיכת פת לבלעו או שאר דבר שנהנה ממנו, צריך לברך עליו לפניו ולאחוריו. Which means if a food particle was stuck in our throat, became lodged in our throat, and we drink a beverage or we take a piece of bread in order to help it go down, to swallow, and the particle will go down. So if we enjoy it, we have to say the bracha before we are taking it and the bracha after we're taking it. But if we drink the water not because we are thirsty, only in order to take the particle in, to swallow the particle, אלא כדי להבליע מה שנכנס לו בגרונו, או לצורך אחר, לא יברך. Or for something else, for example, we are taking a pill and we are drinking a small amount of water in order to swallow the pill. This is not because we are thirsty, it's because of the pill, then we don't say the bracha. Not at the beginning and not at the end. לא יברך לפי שאין הנאה לאדם בשתיית מים, אלא כשהוא שותה לצימו, because the pleasure of a person drinking water is when he's thirsty. Now we're going to halacha 10, and it says like this, שכח והכניס אכלים לתוך פיו בלא ברכה. And it happens, especially when we get older, that unwittingly, or bli kavana, without intention, we took food and we put it in our mouth before we said the bracha. Okay, so there are 3 things that we need to remember. The first one, אם הוא דבר שאף אם יפלטו לא יהיה נמאס, יפלטו לתוך ידו ויברך עליו. If it's a thing that if we'll take it out of our mouth and put it in our hand, we should take it out of our mouth, put it in our hand, if it won't become unappetizing after that we can still eat it after that, and we'll say the bracha. And why? Because it says in chapter 71 in Tehillim, Yemale piti latecha, my mouth should be filled with your praise. It's the same thing when we read Tehillim. We are not allowed to read Tehillim with a gum in our mouth. Because Yemale piti latecha, my mouth should be filled with your praise, not with anything else. So it's very important when we read the Tehillim also to move our lips, because when we move our lips with the Hebrew letters, then it becomes mamash, angels are coming out of our mouth, because each letter is combined of other letters. For example, the Aleph is Vav and 2 Yudim. This is combined to Aleph. So each letter is an angel, but we don't see it. When we say the letters, when we say the words, the tevot, we have mamash paths of angels that come out of our mouth and go up to Hashem and say, I was created from the reading of the Tehillim of this and this woman. Can you imagine? If we could have seen it, there wouldn't be freedom of choice. But we can't see it because we came over in order to choose to be righteous and to listen and to follow the way of Hashem. So, b'siyata dishmaya, don't forget to move your lips when you read Tehillim, and don't speak in between chas v'shalom, because then it doesn't come complete to Hashem, the Tehillim. So we continue, so we see that Yemale piti latecha, which means my mouth should be filled with your praise. So if it's something that won't become unappetizing, then we can put it in our hands, say the bracha, and then eat it and say the bracha after. Ve'im, אם הוא דבר שאם יפלטו יהיה נמאס, but if it's something that if I'll take it out of my mouth, it will be unappetizing, I can't eat it after that, כיוון דאסור לאבד אכלים, because we are not allowed to waste food, מסלקו בפיו לצד אחד ומברך עליו. So we move it to one side of our mouth and we say the bracha, because בל תשחית, we are not allowed to waste food. Just pay attention how much we're not allowed to throw food, to waste food, crumbs of bread, everything you take, and either you give it to the animals or you throw it to the garbage, but with a lot of respect, because he who disrespects the crumb of bread comes to poverty. So pay attention. כיוון שאסור לאבד החלין, it's בל תשחית, we are not allowed to waste food, we are forbidden to waste food. מסלקו בפיו לצד אחד ומברך עליו. So we move it to one side of our mouth and we say the bracha, we say the blessing. ואם הרע לו כן במשכין, what happens if it's a drink, it's a beverage, שאי אפשר לו לסלקן, you can't move it to one side and say the bracha, because then you can choke. So אזי, אם יש לו עוד משכין, so if we have a beverage available from what we just drank, from what we just put in our mouth, so if we have available, we take it out, we spit it out. יפלוט אלו לאיבוד, ואם אין לו יותר, but if I don't have any more, and he's thirsty, והוא דחוק על זה המעט שבתוך פיו, בולען, we will swallow it, and then we'll say the bracha. Now, if we swallow it and then we say the bracha, it will seem that there's something wrong with this. So it says, דכיוון דנזכר בעודו בפיו, דומה קצת לא עובר לעשייתו. Because we remembered when it was still in our mouth before we swallowed, so it will be considered like we are saying the bracha before we swallowed the beverage. אבל ברכה אחרונה לא יברך, but we can't say, if we swallowed and now we say the ברכה ראשונה, we can't say ברכה אחרונה, the bracha after that. But, אך אם הוא יין, if it's wine, ושתה רבעית, and we drank a quarter of a portion, which is 86 milliliters, this is a quarter of a portion, יברך גם ברכה אחרונה, this we need to say also ברכה אחרונה, the ברכה על הגפן ועל פרי הגפן. We'll speak about the brachot achronot, Bezrat Hashem, everything in its time, we'll go through everything, Bezrat Hashem. So we see that we have a few conditions over here, that if we took a food, not a beverage, if we took food and we put it in our mouth and we forgot to say the bracha, then if it's something that won't become unappetizing, then we take it out of our mouth, they say the bracha, and then we eat it. If it's something that will become unappetizing, because it's forbidden to waste food, then we put it in one side of our mouth and we say the bracha and then we swallow it. If it's a beverage, dear ladies, if it's a beverage, if we have still from this beverage on the table, then we throw it out and then we say the bracha and then we drink the beverage. But if it's a beverage that we don't have on the table anymore and we're very thirsty, then because we remembered to say the bracha before we swallowed it, so we swallow the beverage and then we say the bracha, but we don't say bracha achrona unless it's wine. If it's wine, then we say the bracha, then we drink, and we drink 86 milliliters, which is a quarter of a portion, which is 86 milliliters, then we say the bracha before and also the bracha after that. Now we go to halacha 11. היו לפניו שני מינים שברכותיהם שוות. So we have now on the table two kinds of food that the blessing is the same blessing. Let's say two kinds of fruit. Here Shulchan Aruch gives an example of a nut and an apple. We have a nut and an apple שיכול לברך על אחד ולפתור גם את השני, that we can bless over one, and then by this we exempt the other one. חייב לעשות כן. So this is what we have to do. To say at the bracha, we hold it in the right hand, to say the bracha on one of them, and then we exempt the other. We include in our minds all the fruit that is on the table, and we exempt the other. חייב לעשות כן. This is what we have to do, ואסור לו לברך על אחד בכוונה שלא לפתור את השני, כדי לברך גם עליו בפני עצמו, משום דאסור לגרום ברכה שאינה צריכה, which means we are forbidden to say a bracha over one of the fruits in an intention not to exempt the other, in order to say the bracha also over the other, because דאסור לגרום ברכה שאינה צריכה. We're not allowed to say a bracha that we don't need, unnecessary bracha. So we have to have in our minds, if I had a nut and an apple, and to say bracha over one of them, and then בסייעתא דשמיא to exempt the other. ויברך על יותר חשוב, and we need to bless over the superior one. And this, we are going to speak בעזרת השם next week, בלי נדר, about this halacha. What does it mean to bless over the superior one? So I hope next week, בעזרת השם, or the week after, we'll take this, because I'm going to write things for you, and we have to study it thoroughly. To the superior one, which means the one that I liked better. Okay, so I have an apple and I have a nut, or if I have the fruits that the land of Israel is blessed with, this I have to bless over the fruits that the land of Israel is blessed with, and to exempt all the others. But we're going to speak about it bli neder next week. So we bless over the superior one, and the other one is exempt with it. אף על פי שלא הייתה כוונתו לפטרו. Even if I didn't have the kavana to exempt it, but everything that I have on the table is exempt with it. אבל אם ברך על זה שאינו חשוב, but if I said the bracha over the one that is inferior to the other fruit that I have in front of me, אינו נפטר החשוב, אלא אם כן היה דעתו לפטרו. So it's not exempt, the superior one, unless I had an intention to exempt it. אבל אם ברך בסתם, but if I took an apple and I just said the bracha, צריך לחזור ולברך על החשוב. And I didn't think to exempt the other one, which was superior to the apple, so I have to say a bracha also over this. שאינו בדין שיפטור שאינו חשוב לחשוב דרך גררה, which means it says that since it's not proper, that a bracha over an inferior kind should be exempt, and superior kind without intent. So I have to have intention. I have to have intent in order to exempt everything on the table. Be'ezrat Hashem, let's see if I have two kinds of fruit, two kinds of food that I have in front of me. And for example, two kinds of fruit. I have a nut and I have an apple, so I bless over the superior one in order to exempt the one that is inferior. So if I like apples yet more, so I'll bless over the apple with the intention that the nuts will be exempt with it. I'm not allowed to say the bracha and not have the intent in my mind for the nuts, because then I will say a bracha that is in vain, and we're not allowed to say unnecessary brachot, blessings. And if I said the bracha over the inferior one, the inferior one, and I didn't have intent to exempt also the superior one, then I have to say the bracha over the superior one. So now, dear ladies, we are going to continue with Ilchot Shabbat. From here we're going to Ilchot Shabbat, בסייעתא דשמיא, and we came to lighting candles. And remember, this everything is from Shulchan Aruch, בעזרת השם, והמרן יוסף קארו, עליו השלום זכותו תגן עלינו, and also all of the הערות of the Rama, בעזרת השם. So we are trying to go through בסייעתא דשמיא for everyone, that everybody will find themselves. So we are going to הדלקת נרות. It says like this, מצווה מדברי חכמים להדליק נר בערב שבת. It's a mitzvah that from our sages, that to light a candle on the eve of Shabbat. ויהיה זהיר במצווה זו לעשותו נר יפה, that we'll have a nice candle. שאמר רב הונא, היזהר בהדלקת הנר, הזהיר בהדלקת הנר, הביאן לבנים תלמידי חכמים. That she who lights the candles and sees that it's nice candles, better, that it's olive oil, בסייעתא דשמיא, Hashem blesses her, benches her with scholars in Torah, תלמידי חכמים. וכמו כן נהגו הנשים, and this is how the women used to do לאחר הדלקת הנרות, לומר בקשות ותחנונים, לבקש על עצמן ועל בני ביתן ועל בניהן הקטנים ושאר צאצאיהן שיצליחו בתורה. כי שעה זו היא שעת כושר לקבלת התפילות. So after lighting the candles, the women stand and ask from Hashem for brachot, to pour blessing, to bestow blessings upon this world, Bezrat Hashem, from the internal light of Hashem, the light that was hidden for the tzaddikim, that was given to the first human being, to Adam, 36 hours, and then was hidden only for the righteous, that you conceive with this light from the beginning of the world until the end of the world, and all the blessings come from this light. And B'siyata Dishma, I already told you that this light is in the light of the candles of Hanukkah. A part of it is in the sun and in the Torah. So when we read the Torah, when we study Torah, B'siyata Dishma, this light is bestowed upon us. So once we stand next to the candles and we ask from Hashem that we'll have righteous children, and we bless everybody for zivugim, to get married Bezrat Hashem, and with eternal home based on Torah mitzvot, and that we all will be blessed with righteous children and easy pregnancies, easy births Bezrat Hashem, like a chicken. B'mazal tov Bezrat Hashem, with good luck B'siyata Dishma, with full hands, healthy mothers, healthy babies, that the parents will be healthy to raise their children with Torah and commandments Bezrat Hashem. And we bless and we ask from Hashem, the first thing we say B'Shem Kol Yisrael, in the name of Klal Yisrael, and we ask Hashem B'siyata Dishmaya that Hashem will bring Mashiach with mercy now B'siyata Dishmaya, with Eliyahu Navi Zechur Latov, and may we all have the zchut to see the building of Beit HaMikdash HaShishi B'mera B'yameinu Amen. And we ask from Hashem that He will take us to the land of Israel, and that we will be united, that the evil inclination wants us to be separated, the unity. What Hashem wants is unity, because we are all one soul. So we bless everybody Bezrat Hashem for health, mentally and physically, everything that you wish for. You bless after lighting the candles. B'siyata Dishma, it's a big thing. And by lighting the candles and asking for Hashem for blessings, this is what the women do. There's a lot of kavanot that you have when you look at the candles, but B'siyata Dishma, maybe one of Shurim will speak about it. And there's also a minhag that before we come to light the candles, we put tzedakah. Very important to put tzedakah, to put charity before we light the candles. So don't forget to put charity before you light the candles. After you light the candles, you bless everyone Bezrat Hashem. You bless Klal Yisrael and B'Shem Kol Yisrael, and then you bless yourselves and your children and everybody that, all your loved ones, which should be Klal Yisrael Bezrat Hashem. The second halacha, mitzvah min hamufchar ladlik b'shemen zayit. It says in Shulchan Aruch, sign 264, halacha 6. It says over there that it's better to light the candles with olive oil. B'siyata Dishma. נכון לערוך, next הלכה, נכון לערוך את השולחן ולבוש בגדי שבת לפני הדלקת נרות שבת. It's better to prepare the table before we light the candles and to dress up with the clothing for Shabbat. Everything that you do, say לכבוד שבת קודש, in honor of Shabbat. Everything that we do. You put the pamotim, you know, the place in order to put the candles, or in order to put the olive oil, say lichvot Shabbat Kodesh. Everything that you do, say, you put a candle, you put the olive oil, each one, say lichvot Shabbat Kodesh, lichvot Shabbat Kodesh, lichvot Shabbat Kodesh. It's a big mitzvah to say it. You're mamash fulfilling a mitzvah to say lichvot Shabbat Kodesh. And ve'im achama krova lishkoa, and if you see that the sun is coming down, the sun sets, so first light, and then in order to chas v'shalom you won't light on Shabbat, first light the candles and then go and dress up and do the table if you didn't have time. הנוהגים להעמיד את הנרות על השולחן שאוכלים עליו. So if the table is big, so people put the pamotim, the place that you put the candles on, the vessel that you put the candles on the table itself of Shabbat. But if you put it on the table of Shabbat, before you put it, you should put either חלות, צריך להקפיד שיהיו החלות, או כל דבר אחר שמותר לטלטלו בשבת, that you're allowed to pick and move on Shabbat, like a book or utensils זה נקרא? Or, you know, the utensils that you put for the food on the table before you put the pamotim. Why? מונחים על השולחן קודם שקידש היום. Before you light the candles, put something, before you put the pamotim on the table, put something that you're allowed to pick up and move on Shabbat. It can be the challah, it can be a book, you know, the siddur, it can be the chumash, it can be the utensils, you know, the forks, spoons, knives, and the plates, everything that you need on the table, because you're allowed to move them. on Shabbat. Because if you don't do that, שאם לא כן נעשה, and you put the pamotim, תביא לי את הפמוטים, תביא לי, שרק אני אראה למה זה פמוטים. I'll show you what pamotim is. I don't know how to say that in English. So, my sister will give it over here so you'll see. So if you put this on the table before there's the challah or something that you're allowed to move on Shabbat, תודה. תזכי למצוות. So this is the pamot. Okay? This is the pamot. Candle holder. Okay. So if Baruch Hashem, you see? Hashem wanted me to show you. So b'siyata dishmaya, if you put it before you put something that you're allowed to move on Shabbat, the whole table is muktzeh. The whole table is considered muktzeh, and you cannot move the table in order to sweep the floor from the crumbs of the bread. You cannot do that. שאם לא כן, נעשה כל השולחן אסור בטלטול מדין מוקצה. כיוון שבשעה שקידש היום היה בסיס רק לנרות הדולקים. Because once you blessed over the candles, it was only a base for the candles and for the candles holder, and this is muktzeh. You can't move them anymore. So, שהם מוקצים בשבת, and you can't move them. So, מוקצה זה כלי המשמש למלאכה האסורה בשבת. This is a vessel that is a container of something that is forbidden on Shabbat, which is the candle holder, because the candle holder, after you lit the candles, you're not allowed to touch it. So you always put, before you put the candle holder, you put something that is not muktzeh, bread, utensils, or the siddur on the table, and then you can put it. Then it's not, the table doesn't become muktzeh. You're allowed to move it. So, dear ladies, we are continuing the next halacha, Mikar Adin, from the root of the commandment is Dai bener echad. It's enough one candle for Shabbat to light. Aval nahagu ladlik lepachot shnei nerot. But it's a custom to light at least 2 candles. One for Zachor et Yom HaShabbat lekadsho. Remember the day of Shabbat in order to sanctify it, and the second one is Shamor et Yom HaShabbat lekadsho, and the second one is keep the Shabbat b'siyata dishmaya, remember the Shabbat in order to sanctify it. And you remember shezachor zachor b'siyata dishmaya is to remember that Hashem created the world, and by this we are announcing that Hashem is the creator. And by Shamor, to safeguard the Shabbat, is we announce this: Hashem took us out of Egypt, and we are His firstborns. והמרבה בהוראה לכבוד שבת, הרי זה משובח. And he who adds candles, this is elevating the mitzvah. ובהידור זה, and by this, פשטו ורבו המנהגים של בנות ישראל קדושות. It became a custom of the daughters of Israel, the holy daughters of Israel, שיש הנהגות להדליק 7 נרות, there are women that light 7 candles, ויש המדליקות נרות כמניין הנפשות של בני הבית, and there are ones that light the candles as the number of the people in the house, which means the wife, the husband, and the number of children, and every child that is Bezrat Hashem is born to the family, they add another candle. וכשנולד ילד מוסיפים עוד נר. עיקר המצווה להדליק במקום האכילה. The essence of the mitzvah is to light in the place that we eat. שיש לקדש ויוכל לאורם, so we can see the light of the candles. וזהו בכלל עונג שבת, and this is the delight of Shabbat, the pleasure that we have on Shabbat. If we can't put it on the table, then we put it on nearby, on the island or a place that we can put, everybody can see still the lights of the candle. ומכל מקום, אם נהנה יותר לקדש ולסעוד בחצר או במרפסת, which means if it's summer and you wanna say the bracha, you wanna eat outside, בסייעתא דשמיא, in the yard or in the balcony, לאור הלבנה, in the light of the moon, מפני שבחדר הסבובים או חום יתר, because in the room it's too hot or there's flies, מקדש בחצר ואוכל שם. You're allowed to do the kiddush outside and to eat there. ואף על פי שאינו רואה את הנרות משם, even though you don't see the candles from there, it's like when we have Pesach on Shabbat, on Motzei Shabbat. So this is what we do. We eat outside in order not to have the crumbs inside. So it's the same thing. So even though you don't see the candles בסייעתא דשמיא, you can say the kiddush משום שהנרות לעונג נצטוו ולא לצער, because the candles are for the pleasure of Shabbat and not the sorrow. אם לא אוכלים בבית, if we don't eat at home, אבל ישנים בו, but we're going to sleep at home, צריכים להדליק נרות גדולים שיספיקו ליהנות מהם בחזרתם לביתם. So we need to put enough oil or the candles that will be big enough that when we come back, so we light the candles, we go to our friends to do the kiddush, we come back home, so we need that the candles will still be lit. So we light a bigger amount of oil or a bigger candle. מעיקר הדין סגי בנר ארוך אחד בלבד, אף שהשני יקבה קודם שיגיעו השבת. It's enough that even one candle will still be lit when we come back to see the light of the candle. אחד האנשים חייבים להיות בבתיהם נר דלוק בשבת. It means that the women and the men need to have candles lit before Shabbat, which means to bring in the Shabbat. והנשים מוזרות ביותר, and the women are the one that the mitzvah is upon more than the men, because even if his wife is not at home, the man has to light the candles of Shabbat. So the women have this command more than the men, because we have the commandment of chana, chala, nida, והדלקת נרות, which means making a challah and taking a portion, הפרשת challah בעזרת Hashem, and blessing, and the purity of the family, and lighting the candles. And why do we have the lighting of the candles? Because we are doing the fixing of Adam and Eve. And Chava, Eve, she's the one that gave Adam to eat. So because she gave him to eat and brought death to the world, then she extinguished the light of the soul, because she caused separation. Death came to the world, so there's separation between the soul and the body. So because of this, we light the candles in order. Ner Hashem nishmat Adam, the candle of Hashem is the soul of a human being. So we light the candles of Shabbat and Yom Tov. So Ikar mitzvah is on the women. So the essence of the commandment is on the women in order to fix this sin. לכך ניתנה לאישה זכות קדימה בהדלקה, so she is the one that lights the candles, כדי לתקן מה שקלקלה, in order that we will fix what Chava, and we all were part of Chava, in order to fix what we ruin. So, ומכל מקום טוב שהאיש יתקן, ייטיב את הנרות. And so the man needs to fix, ייטיב את הנרות like אהרון הכהן. אהרון הכהן, in the menorah, he was the one that prepared the menorah in order to light the oil. So the man should put the candles or the oil in. This will be part of their mitzvah. להיטיב את הנרות, and then we light the candles. So it's a big thing. כשאישה אינה בבית, הבעל מדליק בברכה. When the woman is not at home, the husband lights the candle with a bracha, with a blessing. He recites the blessing. וכמו כן, אם ההורים אינם בבית, ידליקו בני הבית בברכה. Furthermore, if the parents are not at home, so also the people in the house will light the candles with a blessing, בעזרת השם. It says, בחור ישיבה שנמצא בפנימיה, או חייל בצבא, if there's a yeshiva boy, בחור ישיבה, yeshiva boy who sleeps in the yeshiva, or a soldier in the army, ידליק בחדר השינה שלו בברכה, they should light the candles in their room and say the bracha and recite the bracha. ואין צורך שכל חברי החדר ידליקו, there's no need that everybody will light, אלא אחד מוציא את כולם. One takes everybody, one exempts everybody. והוא הדין לגבי יולדת הנמצאת בבית חולים. It's the same thing for a woman who gave birth and she's in the בבית החלמה או בבית חולים, בבית הרפואה, או in the hospital, or she's in a place that she's getting healed, שתדליק בחדר השינה שלה בברכה. So in the place where she sleeps, she lights the candles by reciting the bracha. גם כאשר בעלה מדליק נרות בבית, even though her husband lights the candles at home. ואם הדליקה אחת מחברות החדר, if there are few women in the same room and one of them lit the candle, אינה צריכה לחזור להדליק, she doesn't need to light. וצריך שהנרות יהיו גדולים, שיעור שכשיחזרו מהסעודה לחדרם ימצאו את הנר דולק, and again that when they go and eat and do the kiddush, when they come back, that at least they can see one of the candles still, they will see the light of the candle. It says that חיילים הנמצאים באוהל סיירים או הדר באוהל, which means soldiers who are in tents when they are in the field, or a person who lives in a tent, שאז הסכנה גדולה בהדלקת נרות, which then it's dangerous to light the candles, יימנעו מלהדליק נרות באוהל, so they shouldn't light in the tent, על אף שאוכלים שם, even though they are eating there, שבמקום סכנה אין להחמיר, that in a place that it's danger, the Torah protects us not to be strict. על כן ידליקו דיירי האוהל את החשמל בברכה. So instead of this, they will light the electricity with a blessing. It's just like a woman that is in the hospital, so they give her 2 candles that they have batteries, so just electric candles. So you put the electric candles with a bracha.
LED candles.
Yeah?
They have the LED candles, the small ones.
Oh, the small candles. The next הלכה, מנהגנו מיוסד על פי דת הגאונים, השולחן ערוך והרמב"ם. Okay. The next הלכה is, והרמב"ם לברך ואחר כך להדליק נרות שבת. Okay. ואישה נוהגת להדליק ואחר כך לברך, ראוי שתשנה את מנהגה אם הדבר לא יגרום למחלוקת. ואולם אחינו האשכנזים הנשענים על דת הרמה נוהגים להדליק ואחר כך לברך. Okay. Dear ladies, this is the halacha. This is very important. And we are going to learn also from מרן יוסף, עליו השלום זכותו תגן עלינו, הרב עובדיה יוסף, and also this is by שולחן ערוך, מרן יוסף קארו, and also the Rambam. Okay, so how do we light the candles? So Ashkenazi women, they first light the candles, and then they say the bracha. Sephardic women, they first say the bracha, and then they light the candle. This is by Shulchan Aruch, by the Rama, by Shulchan Aruch, Rabbi Yosef Karo, and by the Rambam, and we're going to speak about it. So we first, if you're Sfaradiot, we first say the bracha, and then we light the candle. If you're Ashkenaziot, you first light the candles, and then you say the bracha. This is why the custom to cover the eyes. Why to cover the eyes? Because that everything that we do, בדרך כלל מברכים על המצווה עובר לעשייתה. We always say the bracha, just like we studied in Berachot HaNe'enin. We just studied in the Berachot HaNe'enin that if we forgot to say the bracha, so either we take it out of our mouth or we move it to one side, and it's a food, so we move it to one side of our mouth. Why? Because we have to say the bracha before we fulfill the mitzvah. So we say the bracha and then we eat. So the same thing is with lighting the candles. We need to say first the bracha, and then we need to light the candles. So what happens in Hagov Arama, when you light the candles and then you say the bracha, so it seems that the bracha is bracha levatala, because you already lit the candles. It's bracha, unnecessary bracha. So the custom of the Ashkenaziot is to cover the eyes, and when they cover the eyes and then open, it's like now they said the bracha before lighting the candles. So בסייעתא דשמיא, let's go to אוצר הדינים לאישה ולבת של הרב עובדיה יוסף, that his son wrote and gathered from Melkut Yosef. And we're going to chapter 16 and halacha 33. הברכה צריכה להיות קודם ההדלקה. The bracha should be before Sfaradiot, Sfaradic women. The bracha over the candles should be before lighting the candles. שאפילו לדעת האומרים שקבלת שבת תלויה בהדלקת נרות, even those who say, which means the rabbis that say that accepting the Shabbat is dependent on lighting the candles. אין האישה מקבלת שבת בברכה. The woman is not accepting the Shabbat with a bracha, אלא עד שתסיים הדלקת כל הנרות שברצונה להדליק לכבוד שבת. Until she finishes to light the candles for Shabbat. Then she accepts the Shabbat. ובפרט שדת שולחן ערוך, which is מרן יוסף קארו, that he writes, שאין קבלת שבת תלויה בהדלקה כלל. He writes that it's not, that accepting the Shabbat is not dependent on lighting the candles. וממילא דין הדלקת נרות בערב שבת, ככל שאר המצוות שמברכים עליהם עובר לעשייתן. So from here, the lighting of the candles is exactly like all of the mitzvot that you'd say the bracha and then you do the mitzvah. You recite the bracha, you recite the blessing, and then you eat the food. So it's the same thing. ואישה מברכת לאחר ההדלקה, and a woman that blesses after she lit the candles, נכנסת בספק ברכה לבטנה. She goes into safek, which is a doubt if it's not an unnecessary bracha. לדעת מרן השולחן ערוך, this is in the opinion of Shulchan Aruch, which means Maran Yosef Karo. And this is also the opinion of the Rambam. The Rambam says exactly the same thing, and I will quote the Rambam. Rambam says במשנה תורה לרמב"ם, מהלכות שבת, it's chapter 5, הלכה 1, כתב וחייב לברך קודם ההדלקה. That you have to bless before lighting the candles. And we'll speak about it in the continuation. And ואף שהאשכנזים נוהגים כדברי הרמה, and the Ashkenazim, they follow the רמה, לברך אחר ההדלקה, and they bless after the הדלקה. That's why they close their eyes. Like I told you, this is the minhag, in order that it will be considered, when they open the eyes, that it considered that they said the bracha, and then the candles are lit, like it is over לעשייתן. מנהג הספרדים לכל עדותיהם לברך קודם ההדלקה. The minhag of the Sfaradim, says הרב עובדיה יוסף, is to bless before lighting the candles. ומנהגנו מיוסד על פי דעת הגאונים והרמב"ם והשולחן ערוך. And this is by the גאונים and by the Rambam and by the מרן יוסף קארו שולחן ערוך. ואין לשנות המנהג. And we shouldn't change the custom. ומה שראינו בכמה קהילות שגם הספרדים נהגו כדעת הרמה, and we see that part of the ספרדים that do like the אשכנזים by the רמה, עשו כן על פי הוראת רבני אשכנזים. They did it by the word of the Ashkenazi rabbis, and מרן יוסף, הרב עובדיה יוסף עליו ושלום זכותו תגן עלינו, he says, יש להחמיר ולחזור למנהג הקודם של הספרדים. Now, dear ladies, if we are Sfaradic, we should go back to our customs. By the Maran Yosef Karo, by the Rambam, and by the Geonim, we have to go back to the custom, levarech kodem adlaka, to bless over the candles before we light the candles. ועל הצד היותר טוב נכון שתעשה תנאי, and it's good to do a condition, פעם אחת בשנה, once a year, שאינה מקבלת שבת בברכת הדלקת נרות. That she's not accepting Shabbat when she lights the candles. This is when we light the candles and we have a few things to finish. I didn't get dressed yet, and we still have the time until the sun sets down. So we light the candles on time, because it's not good, it's asur to light the candles after that, but we light the candles on time, and we give a condition. It's enough once a year to give the condition, and it stands for the whole year. B'siyata dishmeh, that we're accepting that the Shabbat when it comes in, not by adlakat nerot, not by lighting the candles. Ve'en chiluk bechol zeh ben ish leisha, and there's no difference between a man and a woman by this, אלא שבאיש אין צריך להתנות. But the man does not need to give a condition, because he accepts the Shabbat when he goes to the shul and he says מזמור שיר ליום השבת, chapter 92 in Tehillim. Okay, בסייעתא דשמיא. So, I would like to give you a few things. It's written, אומר הרב עובדיה יוסף, he says like this, אישה שנהגה ומעתה now that a woman knows, a Sephardic woman, אישה שנהגה לברך אחר הדלקת נרות, and she was accustomed to say the bracha after lighting the candles, so she needs to go back to the custom of the Sfaradim, which is the custom of the Gaonim, and which is halacha by the Rambam and halacha by Maran Yosef Karo, to first say the bracha and then the light the candles. And he says over here, וגדולה מזו, הרב עובדיה יוסף says, וגדולה מזו שמעתי מפי מגידי אמת, שהגאון המפורסם, that he heard from other rabbis, שהגאון המפורסם, רבנו איסר זלמן מלצר, ראש ישיבת עץ חיים, זכר צדיק לברכה, when he came to the land of Israel, הורה לרעייתו הרבנית ולבני ביתו, he gave a commandment to his wife and all of his household, שהואילו מכאן המרא דאתרא הוא רבנו הרמב"ם, because here we are in the land of Israel, and over here the halachot is by the Rambam, צריך לנהוג כמו שפסק, we have to do like he commanded. שאף על פי שהגאון ובני ביתו מיוצאי אשכנז שיוצאים ביד הרמה, even though they were Ashkenazim and they are doing the halacha by the Rama, but when they came to the land of Israel, מיד כשהגיעו לארץ ביטלו מנהגם, they stopped their custom to light the candles and then say the bracha, ונהגו כדברי הרמב"ן ומרן יוסף קארו, and they did the commandment by the Rambam and Maran Yosef Karo, which means they first said the bracha and then they lit the candles. Why? Because שיש בזה איסור ברכה לבטלה לדעת הרמב"ם ומרן יוסף קארו, because in the opinion of the Rambam and Maran Yosef Karo, עורך שולחן ערוך, there's a problem with ספק של ברכה לבטלה, that it's a doubt if it's a blessing in vain, and because of this you first say, like you do in everything, you first say the bracha and then you lit the candles. You will tell me, but in netilat yadayim, and he refers to it, netilat yadayim, that we first do the netilah and then we say the bracha. And this, says Rav Ovadia Yosef, this is because we are going to go and eat something, and because we're going to eat, we need our hands to be clean. So we can't say the bracha and mention the name of Hashem with our filthy hands. And also when we wake up in the morning, because we have the spirit of death that is around us, because it's 1/60th of death when we sleep. So we have to say first to cleanse the hand, spiritually and physically, and then to say the bracha, and we're allowed to say the name of Hashem. And dear ladies, it's even when we go to immerse ourselves in the mikveh. When we go to immerse ourselves in the mikveh, the Sephardic women with the robe on them and a cover on their head, they say the bracha and then they go and immerse themselves in the mikveh, mamash over asiyatan. This is the same thing, like we say the bracha, we recite the bracha, and then we eat. So over asiyatan. זאת אומרת, we need to say, and then we do the mitzvah. We say that we recite the blessing, and then we do the mitzvah. The Ashkenazi women, they go in, they immerse themselves once, they do this in the water, and then they say this, and they cover themselves, and then they say the bracha. So Sfaradiot need to say the bracha and then light the candles, just like when they immerse themselves in the mikveh. They first say the bracha and then they immerse themselves in the mikveh. Ashkenaziot and we do this by the Gaonim and by Rambam and by Maran Yosef Karo, Baal Shulchan Aruch, and the Ashkenaziot do by the Rama. And by the Rama, they first lit the candles, then they say the bracha, they cover their eyes. This is a minhag, in order that when they open their hands, it's like they said the bracha before they lit the candles. Now they see the lights. So V'siyata Dishmaya, this is lighting the candles. There's a few more things that I would like to speak. There's a few more halachot, and what happens when we have guests that come and sleep in our house. Do they light candles? Don't light candles when we go to a hotel? So Be'ezrat Hashem, this we're going to speak next week, because I want to go now to guarding our tongue. B'siyata Dishmaya, we'll continue with lighting the candles, and then we'll Be'ezrat Hashem next week. But I want to go to the halachot of guarding our tongues. אוקיי, שמירת הלשון. Just a minute. So we spoke. We're going to speak through Shulchan Aruch, chapter 30, קיצור שולחן ערוך, and also by חפץ חיים ושמירת הלשון. So בעזרת השם, that we will be prepared to be righteous, that we will work on ourselves and we'll have the zchut, because if we make the effort, לא עליך לגמור את המלאכה. We do not, it's not upon us to finish the work, but we came to make an effort to show Hashem how much we love Him, how much we honor Him. We have the fear of honoring Hashem and b'siyata dishmaya, and by this, Bezrat Hashem, Hashem build us a beautiful place in paradise. Ask Klal Yisrael Bezrat Hashem. So we spoke at the first time, we are in the chapter of 30, prohibition against tale-bearing, slander, vengeance, and bearing a grudge. So we spoke about tale-bearing at the beginning. You remember that a person who goes from one person to another, I heard this and this about this person, so this and this happened, this is tale-bearing. זה רכילות. Now we come to the second halacha, and it says like this: יש עוון גדול מזה עד מאוד. There's even a graver sin from tale-bearing, which is classified under this prohibition, which is slandering. והוא בכלל לאו זה, והוא לשון הרע. This is mitzvot that you're not allowed to do. This is a commandment that you're not allowed to do, and this is slandering. So we have tale-bearing, and now we're going to slandering. והוא המספר בגנות חברו, which means he who is speaking, spreading, he was slandering his fellow man, which means, which is speaking shame about someone else. This is, I try to find the right word to, בעזרת Hashem, to give for it. So הוא המספר בגנות חברו, who tries to shame his friend, אף על פי שאומר אמת, even though he says the truth. You know, he's repenting now. His father was like this, his mother was like this. אבל האומר שקר, but he who spread lies, נקרא מוציא שם רע על חברו, that makes a bad name for his friend. He makes lies about his friend in order to uplift himself, to elevate himself, that this person will be down. And we see it a lot, שלא נדע, because we see it in the media, we see it everywhere today. אבל בעל הלשון הרע הזה, so we see, we have tale-bearing, we have slandering. Tale-bearing is gossiping. Slandering is saying the truth about a person in order to shame him. And then we have spreading lies, which is the worst. So now we go back to slandering. אבל בעל הלשון הרע הזה שיושב ואומר כך וכך עשה פלוני this, and this person did before he did tshuva, וכך, and oh, this is what his parents were. You know, if this would have happened, just think about it. Avraham Avinu, who was his father? Terach. And he had a son that was Yitzchak and a son that was Ishmael. Nobody would get married to him. If we look at Yitzchak Avinu, he had a brother, Yitzchak had a brother Ishmael. And one of his sons was Esav, and one was Yaakov. One was righteous, and one wasn't righteous. I don't know if somebody today would marry one of them. Think about Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, Leah, where they came from. So always, when we fall with pride, with vanity, when we think that we are better than others, don't forget where we came from, who are our forefathers and our foremothers, and how Hashem picked them up from the place they elevated themselves by searching the truth in the world, by becoming roses in between the thrones. So, in between the thorns. So we see over here, וכך וכך שם, and this I heard about him, this is a person who slanders, ואומר דברים של גנאי, and he says shameful things about the person. על זה אמר הכתוב, on this says King David, יחרט Hashem is going to eliminate כל שפתי חלקות לשון מדברת גדולות. All of the people who slander other people, they are in karet. The punishment is karet. Can you imagine? This is karet. והמקבל לשון הרע, and he who accepts the לשון הרע, he who lets people speak slandering about, and I'm not speaking about lies, I'm speaking about truth. Slandering is truth, because you want to shame your friend. And he who accepts this, his punishment is bigger than the one that said it. והמקבל לשון הרע הוא גרוע יותר מן האומרו. This is halacha. ולא נחתם גזר דין על אבותינו במדבר, and the judgment over our forefathers that were when they went out of Egypt and they were in the desert was not sealed, אלא על לשון הרע בלבד, only because of slandering. When the spies came back and slandered the land of Israel, which was what they said was true. They had big cities, they had walls over the cities, they had giants over there. They were really burying. Job passed away at that time in order that they won't see the 12 meraglim, the 12 spies that came in, that they won't notice them, that so they will come safe back. And really the fruits were big, but all of this was in a good way. All of this was in order to show the miracles of Hashem that Hashem is going to make for the children of Israel. But because they came and they slandered the land of Israel, which is wood and stones they slandered, and the children of Israel accepted the lies, not the lies, the slandering. We accepted the slandering. Because of this, the decree was sealed, and for 40 years we were in the desert, and every year on the day of the 9th of Av, between 15,000 to 16,000 Israelites were killed and buried. Can you imagine, by accepting Lashon Hara, when a person goes to a shul, a rabbi, and starts slandering another person in order to shame him and to put him down, and you accept the slandering? Can you imagine what you're doing? What a person is doing? And I told you already that 3 books are open. When a person slanders another person, 3 books are open. Because Hashem said, I'm the only judge. And if you decided that you can judge your friend, okay. He says to the court in heaven, open his book. So they opened the book of the one that slanders. They opened the book of the one that is listening. And they opened the book of the one that is spoken of. Immediately, all of the good commandments that the one that is slandering, the one that is listening to the slander, all of their good commandments that they followed and all of the good deeds that they did is moved into the book of the one that is spoken of. The one that is spoken of, all of his sins are moved into their books. Who gets more sins? The one that listened. The one that gave them an opening in order to do the sin. Because you can stop your friend from sinning. You can tell them, I don't want to hear. I'm davening, I'm praying, I'm saying Tehillim, Perik Shira, Shira Shirim. I ask from Hashem for help, I give tzedakah. I don't want to take all of the merit and give it to somebody else. No. I want all of the Israelites, all of the Am Yisrael to share it with me, and also all of Chasidei Umot Olam, but b'chas v'shalom, I don't want Hashem to take it from me. In a split of a second, we are naked from all of our, in a split of a word, we are naked from all of the mitzvot. And this is by saying the truth, just in order to put another person down. כל המתכבד בקלון חברו, אין לו חלק לעולם הבא. He who elevates himself by the shame of his fellow human being does not have a part in the world to come. And it doesn't matter how many mitzvot he did, how many good deeds he did, how many commandments he followed, everything he lost. The Torah is true. Every word that is written, every word that we study is true. No, this is true. When are we allowed to slander another person? So the laws against slander do not apply when we wish to protect someone from harm, For example, I'll give you an example. If we know that a person cheats in business, that he steals from people, then you're allowed not to say to go in front of everybody, but you know that a person is supposed to go into business with him, and you know that this is a person that cheats everyone. איך זה נקרא נוכל? A con man. So you go to the person and you can listen, be careful, check what this person is doing. You can give him to protect him, not to fall with a not good person that will cheat him. Or if a person wants to borrow money, and you know that he's going to borrow, but he's not going to give the money back. So then you can protect the person that is going to give him a loan and tell him, please check, see that you have witnesses before you give him the money. Go in front of a rabbi and 2 witnesses. See that you have to be sure that he will give you back. Check if he's going to give you back them. So you're allowed to, in order to protect him. And the third thing is when we are looking for shidduch, for shidduchim. It's besiyata dishmaya, that you know that a person is going to marry off his daughter to a person that is not righteous. Then this is a mitzvah to come and tell him to go and check again if this person is righteous or not. And this is a mitzvah because you're protecting another person. But you're not going, spreading it out everywhere. You're going specifically to a person to speak, because maybe this person did a tshuva. We do not know that. And all of our mitzvot will go away. So you don't know if the person did tshuva, wants to do tshuva, or he has in mind. Only Hashem knows the heart of the person. But in order to protect a person, you are allowed to go specifically to that person and speak quietly between Hashem, you and him, and be careful, Bezrat Hashem. Again, כל המתכבד בקלון חברו, אין לו חלק לעולם הבא. He who feels that he will be elevated, that his honor is going to be elevated upon the shame of his friend, does not have a part in the true world. So, בסייעתא דשמיא, it says, this is elimination. יחרט השם כל שפתי חלקות לשון מדברת גדולות. This is ממש, בנות יקרות, it says, it's chapter 12, verse 4 in Tehillim, that Hashem eliminates the tongue. I mean, I'm not speaking about lying. That's mamash a different thing. So we continue that we remember that the children of Israel, please תתקשרי לי, that the children of Israel בסייעתא דשמיא, the decree in the desert was not sealed until we accepted the slandering. So, dear women, be careful, especially when you slander a scholar in Torah, which then there's no healing to the person who slanders a scholar in Torah. This is by the Torah. So we have still time to do tshuva. And adinu din emet, and the judgment is a true judgment. So we need to do tshuva now. We don't have enough time anymore. Today is the right day to do tshuva, Bezrat Hashem. Ve'ad eichan leshon hara, and what is the length of slandering? Which slandering is saying the truth about a person in order to shame him. Sha'al echad lechavero, a person asks from his friend, Ada emtza esh, where can I find fire? And this friend, ve'amar lo hechan emtza esh, and he tells him where he can find fire. He tells him, go to the house בבית פלוני שיש לו הרבה בשר ודגים ומבשלים שם תמיד. Go to the house of this person. They always have food. They always have things. This is slandering. Because maybe they don't have enough now for themselves. And you're putting them in a position that is not comfortable. So even this is slandering. Now, dear ladies, let's go to חפץ חיים ושמירת הלשון. And we're going to the cursed. What is the cursed? Dear ladies, it's like this. It's כתוב, ואתה נבהר בעזרת השם מה שיעדנו בתחילת הפתיחה, which means now we're going to explain, לפרט כמה ארורים. Part of the arurin of the cursed. מקבל על עצמו מי שאינו שומר את עצמו ממידה רעה זו. He who does not safeguard himself from slandering, from tale-bearing, slandering, and of course spreading lies about a person. So he is part of the arurim. Arurim is cursed, but there are two levels of curse. יש קללה ויש ארור. Arur is worse than a curse, because Arur is also nidui, is boycast, nidui? Boycast, נכון? Nidui, boycast. So, בסייעתא דשמיא, also nidui. It's not only that a person is cursed, but is also boycast. So we are going to חומש דברים, פרשת כי תבוא. We're going to פרשת כי תבוא. And it's פרשת כי תבוא, page chapter 27, and verse 9. וידבר משה והכהנים הלוויים אל כל ישראל לאמור. So Moshe and the Kohanim and the Leviim speak to all of the children of Israel, and they say, Hasket ushma Israel. So they say, be attentive and hear. Hasket ushma Israel, be attentive and hear, the children of Israel. Hayom hazeh niheta le'am la'Hashem Elokecha. This day you became a people for Hashem your God. ושמעת בקול השם אלוקיך, and you should listen to השם אלוקיך, השם your God, ועשית את מצוותיו ואת חוקיו אשר אנוכי מצווך היום. And you will do, and you follow his commandments and all of his deeds that I'm commanding you today. Today it's present tense, it's every day and day until the end of times. ויצב משה את העם ביום ההוא לאמור. It's not that it's passé, it was in the past. היום, אשר אנוכי מצווך היום. היום is in the present tense. It's every day. ויצב משה את העם ביום ההוא לאמור. And Moshe is commanding the people on that day לאמור. אלה יעמדו לברך את העם. These are going to bless the children of Israel, the people, על הר גריזים, on the mountain of גריזים, בעוברכם את הירדן, when you go through the Jordan, שמעון ולוי ויהודה ויששכר ויוסף ובנימין. These are the tribes that are going to bless, that are going to stand on the mountain and bless the children of Israel. ואלה יעמדו על הקללה, and these are going to stand for the curse, בהר עיבל, on the mountain of עיבל, ראובן, גד ואשר וזבולון, דן ונפתלי. These are the tribes. וענו הלוויים ואמרו, and the Leviim, the Levites said, אל כל איש ישראל בקול רם, and they speak to each person of the children of Israel loudly, which means to each and every one of us. ארור האיש אשר יעשה פסל ומסכה, תועבת השם מעשה ידי חרש ושם בסתר, וענו כל העם ואמרו אמן. They say in general that accursed is is the one who will make an idol and put it and hide it, and all of the people said amen. And then ארור מקלה אביו ואמו ואמר כל העם amen. And then cursed is the man who curses his father and mother, and all of the people said amen. ארור משיג גבול רעהו ואמר כל העם amen. And there's another one. It says, cursed is the one who moves the boundary of his fellow, and the entire people answered amen. ארור משגה עיוור בדרך ואמר כל העם amen. Cursed is the one that causes a blind person to astray on the road, and all of the people and the entire people shall say amen. And then ארור מטה משפט גר יתום ואלמנה ואמר כל העם amen. Accursed is one who prevents judgment and to help of ger, a convert, orphan, ואלמנה is a widow, and all of the people shall say amen. ארור שוכב עם אשת אביו כי גילה כנף אביו ואמר כל העם amen. Cursed is the one that has intimate relationship with his father's wife, and all of the people said amen. ארור ארור שוכב עם אחותו בת אביו או בת אמו, and he who cursed is the one that sleeps with his sister, the sister from his father, a sister from his mother, and all the people said amen. ארור שוכב עם חותנתו, and cursed is the one that has intimate relationship with his mother-in-law, and all of the people said amen. ארור מכה רעהו בסתר. Cursed is the one who strikes his fellow in hiding. ואמר כל העם amen, which means that all of the people, the entire people said amen. This is mamash slandering. How does slandering go? You go to a person and tell him, and people do not come and ask if it's true. They all keep it in their hearts. They believe it's true, and this is from mouth to ear it goes. So it's part of Arur, and Arur is not only curse, it's also boycott. וארור לוקח שוחד להכות נפש דם נקי, and he who takes a bribe in order to judge unfairly a person. וארור אשר לא יקים את דברי התורה הזאת, לעשות אותם, ואמר כל העם אמן. And cursed is the one that will not fulfill all of the commandments of the Torah, and the entire nation shall say amen. If we, chas v'shalom, are bad telling, if we are slandering, if we are spreading lies, we're not only going over Arur makeh ra'eu b'seter, he who strikes his fellow in hiding. We are also going over Arur asher lo yakim divrei haTorah azot. We are also, if it becomes a habit to us and we do it all the time in order to elevate ourselves, to think that we are more honored by doing this and making another person shameful and lying about the person, we are going over all of the commandments of the Torah. Can you imagine? All of the commandments of the Torah. And it's even harsher than curse, because this is Arur. Arur is also cursed and boycott in heaven and here. So it says like this. So all of these three lavin, all of this, Arur makeh ra'eu b'seter, this is he who strikes his friend in hiding, shehu kai al lashon hara. This is mamash halacha of a chafetz chaim. This is slandering. And Arur masgeh iver ba'ever. Mashgeh iver baderech, this who puts an obstacle before a blind person, because it's putting an obstacle, the one that is spoken of, he doesn't know what's going on. People put their backs to him, people don't look at him, they laugh at him, he doesn't know what's going on. ידוע שכוונת הכתוב לערער על מי שנותן מכשול לפני אחר שיעשה על ידו איסור, which means that he brings he causes his friends, the one that is slandering causes his friends to do a sin, and this is Arur mashgeh iver baderech. It's part of Arur. ולפני עיוור לא תיתן מכשול, and it's also going against one of the commandments that we say we're not allowed to do it, that in front of a blind person we shouldn't put an obstacle. And the third thing, ואם חס ושלום נעשה הדבר אצלו הפקר, and if it becomes הפקר, we are so use it because part of us, it's a habit, it's a second nature for us. שאינו מקבל על עצמו להישאר ממנו, he's not afraid, and he doesn't accept upon himself to keep himself from doing this, and he has to do tshuva כמובן, you have to do tshuva over it. If you did it until now, it doesn't go in vain, because Hashem is going to judge you for everything that you did. עובר על ארור שלישי, you go over the third ארור, ארור אשר לא יקים דברי התורה הזאת לעשות אותם, which means it goes over another cursed, that the cursed is the person who does not follow the commandments of the Torah to follow them, to do them. Furthermore, ואם חס ושלום, הלשון הרע היה לאביו ואמו, and if it's about his mother and his father, it is also it's also cursed, Arur mekale aviv v'imo. Can you imagine? And it says, it continues, the Chafetz Chaim says, במסכת שבועות in the Gemara, page 36, עמוד א', דארור בו כללה בו נידוי. The Arur is harsher than klala because it also has a boycott. So לכן כל איש שיודע בעצמו שלא נזהר מעוון המר הזה, he who knows that he doesn't put a curtain or איך זה נקרא, a gate for this sin in order not to go over this sin, שלא נזהר מעוון המר הזה, from this sour, this dangerous sin, צריך להיות חרד לנפשו. We should be very, חרד לנפשו means that we should be very afraid for our soul. אולי חס ושלום נידו בשמיים על זה. Maybe we are boycast from heaven. And then we can't even go to the court of heaven. We are stuck, we're in limbo in this world when the soul goes out. And how many suffering and how many destructive angels for every word. And then there's kafakela. They throw the soul from one side to the world to the other side. No, and they burn the soul. And we are the ones who go and cut the woods. The soul goes, cuts the woods and burns out and burns itself. Can you imagine what we can go through for every word, every letter that was combined to the word, for everything that we did in order to hurt others. And all of this is also written, Chafetz Chaim says over here that also this is written in the Sefer HaCharedim. So B'siyata Dishmaya, with these words, may Hashem help us to repent, to do tshuva Be'ezrat Hashem, and to safeguard our mouth, B'siyata Dishmaya, and when we all have the zchut, בעזרת השם to greet משיח צדקנו ברחמים בואים במהרה בימינו אמן. אליהו נביא זכור לטוב, לעולם יפרד אדם מחברו בדבר הלכה יחיד ברבים הלכה כרבים. I would like to bless all of you with שבת שלום מבורך בעזרת השם. Good Shabbos to everyone בסייעתא דשמיא, and thank you Hashem.